Good morning, everyone. So, today I'm going to show you guys how to create this lovely layout in HTML and CSS using Flexbox. So let's get started by first just sorting out what we want to create here. So here we have a sort of navigation right at the top. You'll notice that they're not all the same size, especially this one is about, let's say, double the size as the others. And then we have here our sort of like different display where we've got two elements next to each other, and this element is even built from different sections. So let's get started. I'm going to actually just use the brush tool. I'm going to use red, and then I'm going to define what we have here. First of all, I'm just going to call this my nav. We'll call this A, B, C, and then D. And this will be the parent tag, the navigation. We'll have 4 children called A, B, C, D. Here we have 1, 2, 3. This will all be in one container called pigs, because it's 3 little pigs. Here we have some, like a main element, I guess we could call it. And this could be an article or a content element. Sorry, it's not as easy to write with the brush tool. Okay, next up, we need to find our different sizes. Now with Flexbox, we don't have to really stress about working in pixels, but we do want to know the percentage of space that each element will take up. So I think to make it easier, I'm going to just go 20, 20, 20, and then what we are left with is 40, right? Over here, we have a different sizing structure, but I think what will be good is going with, this doesn't necessarily have to be a square, but I think 35, and let's do it here at the bottom, 35, and then this should be 45, which means that if you divide these three into 3, it would be about 15 each, but we do have a little bit of a gap there, so we can make it maybe 13, 13, 13, which just, quick math leaves us about 6 left, I guess, so that gap would be 3, 3, but we don't actually have to set the gap in Flexbox because it sort of creates it itself. So we've got our parent tag, nav, with 4 children. We've got a main tag with 2 children, and then this child, which is called pigs, also have 3 children tags. Awesome. Let's get over to the website section. So we start off in VS Code. First, what we need to do, and by the way, if you want to know where to find VS Code, Visual Studio Code is completely free online. I can always link the subscription in the chat. So we go File, and I'm going to go Open Folder. And then I have to go and just find my website. So I go to Desktop. It's called YouTube website, and I just click on that folder, and I say Select Folder. Okay, then it will show what's already inside the folder. There isn't really much inside of it. If we go and check it out, you'll see that it's just 2 folders. One says HTML and CSS, the other one says UI design, this is our UI. Okay, so in here, you'll see that there's nothing. So we go to our VS Code, and we want to insert a HTML file there. We go click, New File. I will call it index.html. I press enter, this will come up. In VS Code, you have the shortcut key Shift-1, and then you just press enter, and the whole HTML structure is created for you. In this video, I'm not going to talk about the HTML structure. Hopefully, if you're watching this, you already know some basics about HTML. This is mainly just if you want to know how to create a specific layout. So we're going to start off with our nav. Okay, we've got our nav over there. Sorry, I actually don't want to call it nav. I want to call it div, and then class equals navigation. like that. Okay, so let's have a look. So we know in our nav we have 4 children tag A to D. So then we go and create those 4 children. The easiest way to tackle these things is to divide it for yourself into smaller things. Then it's a lot easier to sort of like figure out how to create certain elements. So we've got child A, and then I'm going to literally just, actually let's first type child A here so that we have some content so that we can actually see where child A is. Oops. Okay, so we just change this to B. Most of the time, HTML is not case sensitive, but with our classes and our IDs, it is case sensitive. So that's just something that we should take into account while we are creating these elements. Okay, so a username, I want to call it, a class or an ID, that would be case sensitive, but other things won't be. So there we have our navigation parent tag set up with our 4 child tags. You can of course call this anything. I'm just using the word child because then it's easier for you guys to relate. Okay, then we need to go and create our CSS file. So here again, we click, we say new file, and we just call it styles.css. We press enter. Here we have our CSS file. Before I start doing any sort of CSS, we want to go back to our index page, and then we want to make sure that we also link our CSS file. So here we go, link rel equals style sheet. So this is the relationship. So we know that it is a style sheet. And then we also have to add the reference, which is styles.css. It actually pops up if you type it correctly. If you're not sure what this is supposed to be called, it's supposed to be exactly the same as your styles file, which in this case is literally called styles. But of course, again, you can call it makeup if you want to, as long as you add css.css at the end so that it knows that it's supposed to be a CSS file. Awesome. So these are all created. I'm going to quickly just split my screen into 2 sections. So let's go here. So it's just a little bit easier for us to see. We can also hide this so that we have more space. And then what I also like to do sometimes is to actually have this open on our side there so that we can keep on seeing it. However, I do think I'm just going to open up the browser for now. So the browser will be running over there. We can add some extra space by just dragging it like this. And then when we run our code, so we can just go run without debugging, we can say Chrome. And there we have our child tags. Every now and then, I'm going to just full screen this quickly so that we can see that it's actually acting like we want it to. Okay, awesome. So we can see that we've got our tags there. However, it's obviously not looking anything like this at the moment, right? And we want to make sure that it looks like this. So we have to start setting up our documentation. The first thing is we always start with the all container, and then we just set all our padding to 0 pixels, our margins to 0 pixels, oops, not 0 pixels. And we can also change the font family here. So I love the font family Poppins. And then we can save this, make sure that we save it, and then we refresh. You'll notice that it like pops into the corner. That's because we removed any padding and margins. And then also the font family has changed. Okay, next up, we have to go and create our navigation tag. So dot navigation, why do we use full stop? Well, it's a class, so we need to call it with a class. An ID you would have called with the pound key, or like the new Zoomers, or whatever you millennials you want to call them, calls them the hashtag, right? This tag. Okay, but I think initially it was called the pound key before there was anything like a hashtag. We'll just call it the hash, I guess. Okay, so in the navigation elements, we want to define certain things. First thing that we want to do is we want to just give it a background color so that we can actually see our files. So what I like to do is I'm going to go to my little guide here. I'm going to copy, let's copy this color code. That's hexadecimal codes. And there we go. So if I would now refresh this, it will show a background color. Okay, so that's the first thing that you want to do is you just want to create a background color so that you can see where it is. The next thing that you want to do is you want to define a specific size. So we're going to go width should be 100 VW. Okay, the W stands for width, the V stands for viewport, and then our height should be about 16 VH. Okay. Now, I haven't actually defined that yet, but in here, this area, whoops, that should be red, not green. That is about 16, okay? And the rest of this, oh, I already created this, is 84, okay? That's just some sizing that I've already worked out for myself. Okay, this is a bit of a mess, sorry. So that's 16, that's 84, which means that we can just type that already. Okay, we save, we refresh, and you'll see that the sizing has changed slightly. And then the other thing that we want to do is we wanted to change the display to flex. Okay, the reason we want to do this is because with Flexbox, or basically what we activate here, the Flex container, I guess you can call it, or the Flex function. Yeah, I think the term is function. We're activating the function in the container, and then if we refresh, you'll notice that your elements are now next to each other. Okay, the problem is that we can't actually see where the one starts and the other one ends, so we're going to give them all colors. Okay, so let's go create our child tags. So again, we start off with a full stop, child A, and I'm going to first group some of them together. Some of them are the same size, so we can group them together. For example, A, B, and C will all be the same size, whereas child D will actually be different in size. So I'm going to just group them like that. I'm not sure why I wanted to copy that. Doesn't really make much sense. Okay. Okay, the reason I'm also adding them as their own little tags is because of they will have different colors, right? So there's certain things that can be the same and certain things that will be different. I'm not sure why they got extra tags there. And then also D. Okay. So they'll all have, or they might, most of them will have their own background colors, but their size would be similar, except for D would be a different size. So let's first just give them all their own colors. So A, again, I'm going to go to this. I can see that it's this one. So I'm just going to copy this hexadecimal code. I'll show you guys where to get your hexadecimal codes as well if you don't know. Okay, so I believe A and C are the same colors. So let's quickly just check that it does change. Yes, it has. And then B and D are the same colors. Remember to always save your files before you refresh, otherwise it won't show up. Okay, awesome. So there we have our background colors, all of them added, and we can clearly see where they are currently structured. I want to just quickly remove this so that we can see what that did. So initially they were all underneath each other, right, like that. But because I applied the flex container, the flex function to the container, it then created it like this. Okay, so just to quickly check how it looks like when it's bigger. Awesome. Now we want to refine these sizes or define these sizes. And all we do is we say flex 1. And for child D, we say flex 2. Okay. We can now save, we refresh, and then boom, the sizing has been done. So A, B, C, and D. Let's quickly just go through what happened there. So this flex, if I state this has to be flex 1, I basically give it the ratio of 1 to whatever the amount of flexes will happen. So for example, if this is 1, this is 1, this is 1, that's 3, and this is 2, that would be 5. 1 out of 5 would be 20%, right? So 2 out of 5 would be 40%. So we're basically using these ratios, 20, 20, 20, and 40 for that sizing. I could have gone, if you are a little bit confused by ratios, you could also use percentages. Just remember that you also have to use it everywhere. So if I go 20 there and 40 here, it would look exactly the same. So just quick reminder is that I'm only typing this once because it's applying it to all 3 of the children tags. So that's what's happening there. I could have also typed it here, but it seems like redundant to type it 3 times. Okay, I like to use the simplest form, so we're just going to keep it 1 and 2. Okay, that would look the same if I would refresh. So we're done with the top part. Now the second part. Let's have a look. Second part, we've got our main tag. Within that, we have a content tag, and within that, we have a pigs tag. So we're going to go over here. We start off with our div. Class equals main. Okay, within the main, we have a tag called class equals content. Okay, there's nothing inside content, but we can just type the word content or article or whatever, just so that we know where it is. And then class equals pigs, right? Because it's the 3 little pigs that we are creating there. Now, within the pigs, we actually don't add the word pigs because the pigs itself has children, right? So this is going to be child 1 instead of child, A, like before. And we can actually copy and paste this and just change it. I think I'm not going to do that though. Let's just type it out. Remember, I only need 3 here. Super important to just change all of them to make sure that we don't make any mistakes. Okay, so the moment that we get to this point, it could be that the stuff is starting to becoming overwhelming. And if we look at this, it could be a little bit confusing. So what we do is we can add some comments to this. I always like to add my comments over here where there aren't any code. So we type a comment like this, and then we just say nav starts here. Okay, a comment is not read by your web browser, so it actually doesn't matter what you comment. It won't influence your browser at all or the website at all. You'll notice that even if I refresh, nothing should appear. Actually, I haven't saved it because something should appear, right? That stuff should appear. So if you refresh, you see that only that appears, that this doesn't appear anywhere. Okay, then if you have that, we also have to just say main starts here. Main ends here. This is really just to organize your stuff a little bit better. Obviously, you can add a bunch of other comments as well if there's like more things going on. This is really just to compartmentalize it. It's not really explaining anything, right? Normally, we would use comments to explain certain things, but for now, I'm just using it to organize my stuff, my layout a little bit. Okay. Awesome. So here we have content. You can actually see everything is already over there. It looks like it's working perfectly fine. Let's go to our CSS. Okay, so I'm just going to resize it like this. And I can actually take a lot of this information and just change the actual sizes of it. So for example, navigation, I can copy it, I paste it. This I now just call main, right, instead of navigation. The background color I can keep for now. The width is exactly the same, but this height should be now 84, right? And let's just remove this flex for now. Refresh. Okay, awesome. There we have our sizes. The next thing that we want to do is we want to add the content, right? So the one child will be called content. Luckily, it doesn't have anything, so it shouldn't be too much of a problem. Let's go to content. Okay, we're going to just give it a background color. So background color. I'm not sure what the background color was. I think it was, yeah, it was the B one. So let's just, so it's this one. We can refresh. Okay. I'm not sure why it's not showing. Let's just check again. Okay, for some reason it's not picking up content. Let's see. Oh, that was not typed with a capital letter. Remember, as I said earlier, that some elements are case sensitive, some aren't. IDs and classes are always going to be case sensitive, so make sure that you use those correctly. Okay, we'll fix the sizing in a second. Let's just first go and create the pigs. Now remember that the pigs one is actually also a parent tag. So the pigs element will also have to have some of these type of stuff with the word like flex in it as well. We have to actually activate the flex function. But before we do that, let's just give it a background color. Okay, I'm going to just make it white. Okay, you'll notice that it covers all three of those children. And then remember, the children all have their own elements. I'm going to just copy this. So A to C. I'll copy it here, paste it. We'll call this 1. This should be 2. And then this should be 3. Now if I refresh, now we can see that all three have their own. There we go, exactly like that. Okay. Now you might ask me, okay, but listen, this is not supposed to look like this at all, right? They're supposed to be content and the pigs tag should be next to each other, right? So that is correct. So what we need to do is in the main tag, we need to type display flex. Okay. Boom. Now they're next to each other. Awesome. They are both next to each other. However, they're not filling the space like this one did. It's currently just filling the space in those areas. Why? Because they haven't been given flex sizes. But we actually don't want to give them flex sizes because we don't want them to fill the space, right? When you give them a flex size like flex 1 or 2 or whatever, it's filling all the space up, right? Because we use the ratio of 20 out of 100, 20 out of 100, 20 out of 100, 40 out of 100, that fills all the space. In this scenario, we actually don't want to fill all the space. We want to fill a specific percentage, but we don't fill all the areas, right? Here we've got some blank, here we've got some blank, here we've got some blank space. So this percentage would be 35 and 45, and this will actually also be 35 and 45. So we go to first, our content, we go with 35 VW. Height, 45 VH. Remember, the H stands for height. Okay, boom, that space is created. We can do this exact same thing for the pigs element. And then that space is created as well. Now, this is starting to look like what we wanted to create. My sizing could be slightly off, this 35 and 45. You might ask, why am I not just using 45 for both? Well, the thing is, this works in width and this works in height. So the 100% of this height is definitely going to be different than the 100% of the width, right? Because our screens aren't squares. Okay, so it's starting to look all right. However, we want some spacing at the top and we want some spacing over there. So what we need to do now is we need to, in this area, we need to tell it we want our content to be justified and we want some space between them. Okay. This again only works if you have the flex function active in your parent tags. So let me just have this over here. We refresh. Now we've got some space between, but the thing is we actually want space over there as well. So we go, instead of using between, we use space around. Now if we refresh, you've got space to the left, space in the center, space to the end. You can also do space evenly. I believe it's with only 2 elements, it's going to look very similar. There might be some slight differences. I think I'm going to actually use this one. This looks a little bit cleaner. At the top, we want the same thing, but with vertical spacing, or at least the y-axis, we have to use align elements. So align elements, and we will be using center because we want it to be in the center. We refresh, and then boom, those elements are now in the center. Okay, so let me just quickly explain that concept. Justify content works with horizontal spacing, right? Or the x-axis spacing. Align items works with vertical spacing, or the y-axis spacing. Now, why am I telling you about x and y-axis? Well, the thing is, if your display direction is different, the y and the x-axis actually swap out. So currently my display, not display direction, flex direction. Currently my flex direction is rows, but if they were columns, it would have been the other way around. Let's just quickly check. This seems like it's for some reason not picking up. Oh, it should just be row, not rows. Nothing should change. There we go. But if I change it to column, you'll see that it has changed significantly what that does. We don't have to type flex direction row because it's always going to be by default flex direction row. And then the x and the y axes work like normal x and y axes. But the moment that we change the flex direction, then they are just reversed. Okay, so why do I need to know that? Well, the thing is with this pigs elements, if we go to these 3, right? They're currently not looking how they're supposed to because they're not filling up all the space. So in our pigs element, we're going to go flex, no, not direction, just flex. Display flex, right? The problem is that now the children are going to be next to each other, which of course we don't want. We want to use flexbox because we want to be able to use those functions, but we don't want our elements to be next to each other. So now all we can do is flex direction, we make it column, and then they are still going to be underneath each other. Now what we want to do is, remember, we want some space between them, like I've used before, and we want them all to be 13, 13, 13 in height. So over here, I go, height 13 VH. I can copy this, paste, we save it, we refresh. Awesome, but they don't have that space between them yet, right? And remember, with vertical spacing, we would normally have used align items, right? But because the axes are swapped, we will actually use justify content now. So we go to pigs, justify content, and I think we're going to go space between. Why am I using space between rather than space evenly? Because space between only adds these gaps, right? only between them. We don't want any space here. We don't want any space at the top. So we just want gaps between them. We save, we refresh, boom. There we have those elements. And now we can go remove this background color. Refresh, and there our layout is done like this. I want to just change this to 14. 14. I haven't tested this beforehand, so there we go. It looks exactly like the one that we created. Awesome, guys. That's going to be it for this session. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Please leave a like, subscribe, comment if you want to do something, have a class like this similar again. And I'm also going to start doing where I create actual websites, right? Because this navigation isn't realistic in a real website. The way that this content and stuff is displayed as well. But I wanted to just show you the basics of how Flexbox work and how easy it is to then manage your content. Awesome, guys. Have a lovely day. See you guys next time.